Michael Vonnen, one and all. The literary Baptists are back at it again after an entire age of Middle Earth has gone by. What's up, people? How's it been going?
It's really none of your business. Sorry, that was too much.
That's right. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, please.
It's above your pay grade. You don't get to know this information.
No, but good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Has everybody been killing as many insects as possible this summer?
Oh my gosh.
Doing your
Yes.
human duty.
I hate bugs.
I
Good thing
I
you
ran
live in
over
the
a
South.
centipede.
That's what I'm talking about. Rock on. Yeah, I was horrified by some bug. We were talking about this before the recording, but I was horrified at the softball field yesterday. There are, and I can't remember what they were called, but some sort of like hornet that lives in the hole in like a hole in the dirt of like a softball field. And one of those hornets flew out of the hole and grabbed like a cicada or something, and then like bashed it into the ground and pulled it down to the depths of hell. That was frightening. It
Nature is
ruined my at
healing.
bat.
Ruined your head bad.
Sure, that was it.
That was why
That's
we lost.
the real reason that we haven't recorded in this long is because Lee's playing softball with dangerous hornets.
Yeah. Yeah, I became a jock this summer for the first time in my life. So one other softball story, and I promise we'll move on to more important things. But uh, I bruised a rib at one game. I ran to first and I made it. So
What was
which
her name?
we were the Fighting Spurgeons. Oh ha, that's funny. Anyway, so I'm running to first. I make it, but like on the softball first base is like kind of like puffy, like it's thick, it's like got air in it. And so I ran and completely depressed it with my foot as I crossed the base. And then I stepped off and got some lift because the base like reinflated after I completely pushed it down. So then my next step after coming off the base didn't really touch the ground. And I'm like, oh no, uh-oh. And so and then I like stumbled and then rolled onto kind of my left side and popped back up. And I'm like, A-okay, gonna be fine. Like I scratched up my elbow or whatever. The next day, I could barely like stand up straight because like I just had awful pain on the left side, and I had bruised a rib, and it took like almost a month to heal. It was terrible. I've never had anything like that before. I'm like, why did I choose to do this summer? For the church. That's for the glory of Christ.
Yeah. Getting old sucks.
It is awful.
Amen.
It's awful.
Yeah,
So I went
Like,
on
what
the
did
The
you
oldest
do?
one here, I can attest.
What did you do? How'd you throw your back out? Slept?
I
It's the world's most
looked
dangerous
to the
sport.
left.
I've like literally thrown my neck out, like checking my blind spot. while
Yes.
changing.
Oh my gosh. It's like,
Uh,
The last time I bought a new pillow, I threw my neck out on the new pillow. Like I slept normally, but the angle was different than what I was used to, and bang, I couldn't look to the right anymore. And the brand
So
was
sad.
My Pillow, by the
but
way.
you could still drive NASCAR.
It's so true. So true, King.
I feel like that kind of like disproves the theory of evolution a little bit. Like we're getting worse.
We are, yes.
Our ancestors like slept on rocks.
That's right.
And
Can you imagine
I
what it was
literally
like for
just-
them when they woke up, though?
I actually just saw an Instagram reel about like pillows, and they had pictures of like stone or pottery pillows from the past. And some were like ornately decorated, but they were just like a curved piece of like wood or pottery of some kind that you would lay your head on to go to sleep, and they were like very tall. Like, yeah, I'm sure that broken neck would be worth it the next morning, but
Maybe they're
maybe
great.
maybe they are.
I've never
Could be.
slept on a rock with a depression in the middle.
Yeah. We should ask Jacob what it was like, because he
Yeah.
used a rock for a pillow.
He had
Could it be
crazy
all that
dreams when he
different
did it.
from he had a great dream too. Um have you seen that pillow? It's kind well, it's like structured. It's like a wedge that you sleep with your head sort of at upward at an angle, and then you can like put your arm through it. So like your
Yeah.
arm would be under your head in a comfy position, but your weight isn't rested on your arm. That can't be that
Yeah.
far off from those like ancient pillows. It might be a little softer, I guess, but
You think they dug like milled holes through their stone pillows?
the ones that I saw did have a gap. Like there was on two legs. Like there was the curved part, two legs, and then a base. So at the right angle, you probably could like get your arm under there.
Ah, yeah. Just throw a little bit of grass on there. Golden.
Put a little dirt under your pillow for the dirt man.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's for our one Gen Z listener who's forgotten to unsubscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
That's all right.
Millennials.
I keep telling the youngsters at church like I'm slowly becoming Gen Z day by day. Because I used to say I was like
Please
a
don't.
boomer trapped in a millennial's body, and then now like I'm actually getting progressively more Gen Z every day. Like I could do a brain rot version of any top 40 song from the 1970s.
Is it because you're so Ohio?
Oh no. Oh.
Like I want to do a brain rot version of The Joker by the Steve Miller Band, and it would just be the Rizzler. It
Ugh.
could really work.
Ugh.
What would you use for the other things?
Uh I'm not gonna spoil it because
Oh,
somebody
okay.
will take my idea and run with it.
I love how the Gen Z lingo gives Zach like visible pain.
It's terrible.
Just wait. It's gonna show up in one of your lit RPG ebooks and
And
and it'll
and
change your
and
life.
that's the moment I'll stop reading. Tear my eyes out.
It'll be a while. They're still making TikTok videos.
Yeah, they don't know how to read.
In the Joker, in that song, he just makes up a word that's ridiculous. Pompatus.
Oh
It's not a real
yeah.
word. So, it's
It is
been
now.
around for a while.
He's the new Shakespeare. That's why.
Yeah.
Shakespeare made up all sorts of words, and
Steve
we use them
Miller's
now and
the
we
new
think they're normal.
Shakespeare.
Do you have a word? Does anyone here have a word that like people use that's not a real word that like bothers you when they say it?
Yes.
What is it?
That bothers me or like annoys me or like causes me
Yeah, it
pain.
just annoys you, cause you pain. I don't know. It's a scale. You can scale it.
Irregardless.
I
Could
do hate
care
you
less.
regardless.
Couldn't
It's not a
care less.
word. It's 3 words. But
Myriad of this is a recent like bugaboo for me, but when instead of saying like or myriads of even though it's in the dictionary now, it's so not proper. So like things need to be like things are myriad. It's not myriads of things.
well,
Yeah.
irregardless,
That's niche.
I knew you were gonna do it.
what's your word, Maddie?
Frustrating.
Frustrating.
Oh,
You got to be more
I-
specific.
I've Like I've only heard a couple people ever say that, but when they say frustrating, I'm
Frustrating.
like, you get a little tweaky. It makes sense, because it's like what do they call that? Like an acorn where it kind of sounds
Yes,
like for
Eggcorns.
intensive purposes, that kind of thing. But it's like
Uh,
Yeah.
frustrating. But I'm like, frustrating. You're not frustrated, you're frustrated. I heard that the other day and I was like, ah.
no, you are frustrated.
It's so frustrating.
What if you're now making fun of people who can't say the letter R when it's the first usage of the word R in a word?
Well,
But
they would
but
say
yeah.
frustrating.
Frustrating. But well,
Frustrating.
that's if they haven't found a way to mask it.
Or frustrating.
The sophist
They would
the
have to skip the
sophisticated
other
people
R
with
too.
speech impediments know how to mask their speech impediment
Yeah. Yeah. And it wouldn't bother me if it really was hard for them to say, but they're saying it because they think the word is
because they think it's
actually,
actually fuss.
yeah, frustrating. I find it very frustrating.
Yeah.
Uh, have you heard the could of?
Yes.
Like they'll even like you'll hear it like
That's a very
could
southern
of.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's worse written.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
seeing it over text. Like it's have, could have
Yeah.
done,
Could have.
could have.
Yeah. It makes sense when you spell it out like of, because that's how we say it.
It certainly sounds like of.
Yeah, we say could of.
Well, up here in the north, we don't. It almost like it's almost one syllable sometimes up here. Could have like there's not like two discernible syllables because we end up saying it fast enough that there's like no gap there.
In
It's because we're so
Ohio?
cold. We gotta like get the words out so we can close our mouths again.
I don't
I'm trying to think like how people near me say it.
Could
could
have.
have.
Coulda, yeah, coulda,
Coulda.
could've.
I found in my listening to Haunted Cosmos over time, getting really annoyed with some of their mispronunciations of things that are, and actually, I think it would be endearing if it didn't happen so often, but it's the kind of mispronunciation that happens when you've read a word so much that you think it's pronounced this way and it's actually not pronounced this way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did that with the word ennui in high school. I thought it was NUI. And then I said it one time in college and
Inui.
like, yeah, ennui.
Indict is a hard one.
Oh, indict is a hard one.
That one took me a while.
Yeah. I still have like mortal embarrassment from my sixth grade year, the first time I read the name Sean out loud.
Ooh,
I said scene.
I was gonna say,
Seeing.
did he feel seen in that
Yeah,
moment?
scene. And then I realized, oh, it's Sean, and I was like, wow, I wish I would have died that day. I can never show my face here again. Mom, we need to move. Yeah, I still remember that. So
It's
I
Oh.
his fault or his parents' fault for doing it the Irish way instead of the American SHAWN.
It's
yeah,
true.
it's true.
Need to
Yeah.
Americanize it.
Well, and I've kind of not come completely like full circle, but I used to be a lot more of a grammar Nazi and a lot more of a pronunciation Nazi. But like you said, it's coming from people who are reading and not hearing it. So you can't really be mad that somebody's reading and I mean, at least they're reading it instead of just not
Yeah.
knowing words. But it is a little tweaky, especially when it's coming from somebody who's talking about a subject matter
Hmm.
and they're not saying the words right.
And there's so
But
many things that people say wrong.
Hmm.
And they're just myriads of words that people could say wrong. And so you could just get frustrated by if you focus on it too much.
yeah. Well, I'll
Uh
give you an example. I just read, and it's like it screwed me up already because I just read JD Vance's memoir, The
oh
Hillbilly Elegy,
yeah.
but I heard people talk about it as the Hillbilly Elegy,
Oh,
Oh no way.
no.
and I was like, what's it like? That's a weird, like it didn't even click that it's elegy when I heard elegy. Like I was like, weird name for a book, Hillbilly Elegy, and then I saw it and I was like. It's elegy, but now when I see it, I think elegy, and it's messing with my brain.
Uh,
Did y'all watch Zoolander?
yeah.
Yes, it's been a while, but yes.
You googly.
You're googly instead of eulogy.
Thank you.
You're googly.
Did you think I gave a good you googly? I'm so glad you brought that up because I was getting legitimately angry about elegy, and I needed
That's
a good laugh. So thank you
the
for
first thing I
diffusing
thought
me.
of. Elegy. Are you googly?
And you had to give the you googly at the funeral for the people that died in the freak gasoline fight accident.
Uh, we are like 5 years away from that actually happening in this
Yeah, for
country.
real.
Probably less.
So it'll
Well,
be a
Florida will do it
mostly
first, I'm
peaceful.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Florida
Uh,
non-binary person lights all their
We'll
friends
get it
on
done.
fire.
Wow.
I was so ahead of time. I was trying to think of potential titles for this episode, and I was really considering, and I might still do it, calling it "What Can Be Unburdened by What Has Been,"
Ugh. That
since
can
it
be
feels
our
like we're
phrase for this new season of ours. We can move on from the significance of the passage of time and what can be unburdened by what has been. So,
I do think that that phrase does kind of is emblematic of the vibe of our era right now.
Is she quoting somebody? Is
No,
that
herself, I
no?
think, at
her
No,
some point.
her
it's not
speechwriter,
a
I think.
okay.
I
I
just like with that kind of thing, I genuinely get the impression that they just think people are stupid.
Well,
probably.
they are. So
Zach, I didn't know you were one of the elite.
I'm not, but I'm also not stupid.
Well,
We've actually convened this call to talk to you about this.
this is
You think
And
we're on a
hangs up.
podcast? We're not. This is an intervention.
Okay. Listen, I just like lit RPG, okay? Leave me alone.
That's why I made it your nickname on the
It is the
Zoom.
future.
It really is. You're right. We don't have enough RPGs in the video games anymore. They don't make really those
I
the
mean,
good ones from the
they
past.
can write good lit RPG now, unburdened by what has been written prior.
I
So,
love it.
yeah.
Man.
I'm just gonna say that, like, for me, RPG just means rocket propelled grenade. So every
That would
time
be
you,
even better. Oh my gosh.
every time
Literary
you,
rocket propelled grenades.
that's like what I say. I'm like, I don't understand what this. Oh, now I get it.
you have to like recite a poem or it won't go.
Just make sure that it's not an elegy.
Ugh.
It has to be a pastoral poem.
It can be a you googly though.
You googly. Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote a few of those.
So sad. I will say I struggle to this day with the word kernel. I cannot read that
Oh,
word without saying like colonel in my head
yeah.
first. I'm like, it's not
Yeah.
colonel.
That is a pronunciation that doesn't make sense to me, and I've never gotten an explanation about why we say it that way.
No, no
Or
idea.
how the word
Blame the
lieutenant is
British.
lieutenant in the UK. There's
Yeah.
nothing left sounding in there.
They screwed up the English language. Fortunately, the Americans have been around to perfect it.
That's right.
Uh, Figure it out, do it right.
I wonder if there'll be like if there will be a tide within the evolution of American English that will reinstate more of the Anglo word forms and not like it'll become less of a romance language at some point. Will that
I doubt
tide
it.
ever be stemmed?
I mean, if Gen Z and Gen Alpha have anything to do with it, it'll definitely be less romantic language.
I watched a video on YouTube. It was a guy who he was examining um fantasy literature and talking about the split between um like Anglo versus romance word usage and how um Brandon Sanderson is like 80% like romance words. And believe it or not, actually, Patrick Rothfuss used almost the same breakdown of um, sort of like Anglo English type words as Tolkien did, which kind of surprised me. And they're like, is this a bar of like what's better? Don't know. But it's an interesting like divergence. Like these are arguably the two most popular fantasy authors of recent decades, and it's a clear bifurcation of word choice. I think that's fascinating.
Well, if you can judge based on the word sigma, it might be that the English language is going to become Greek.
Hey,
That
that
would be
So,
Sigma.
I would
yeah,
take
it
that.
would.
Man, I'd be your Sigma.
Yeah,
We'll let that breathe. Anyway,
yeah. Let it breathe.
so want to do a little reading catch up? What have you guys been Zach, you want to start? What have you been reading over the last 2000 years since the last time we
Yeah,
pod?
since the last age. Um,
Melkor has been overthrown. That's great.
yeah, no,
Been
that's
chained
good.
up. What have we been reading since we all got free?
So really, I've I've been stuck in my lit RPG hole. So I've read some things that aren't that good, and I've read some things that I thought were actually really good. So I'll stay away from the not that good and go with the really good. I think I've talked about it before. There's a series called All the Skills. Um,
That's an interesting title.
these lit RPGs they're built around game mechanics, like a video game or Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, just a role-playing game mechanics, like there's levels and classes and um,
So like all the skills would be talking about like building up a skill tree kind of a thing.
yes. But this particular one
I speak
uh,
nerd.
is deck building instead of your normal
Oh,
Like a patio.
right, yes, like a patio. No,
using Trex?
like a
That's some expensive
card
material.
a deck of cards, a card strategy game like Magic or uh I guess Pokemon for the kids. Um
Takes me back.
but yeah, that one actually has really good story. Um I guess it'd be comparable to like a Harry Potter kind of a there's a coming of age kind of a progression. That's a good one. There's also what's the name of the series? Hold on. The Grand Game, which is
Ooh,
another just really well written um, series of novels in this style. Um, So a lot of these start off with like somebody's being sucked from their world into another one, and they just are thrown into, they don't have any idea what's going on, and they have to learn the game. And this is one of those where you're thrust into a crazy situation, and you have to you have to start playing this game.
Hmm.
Um, but it has a really good plot, really good story, well written. Some of these in this style are just awful, like terrible, written by a 10-year-old kind of, but there are some that are just actually well written, and that's one of them.
And is this the kind of thing that you read from beginning to end, like a novel, or is it something that you
Yeah.
like jump around in?
No,
Oh
it's
man,
it's
choose your own
being
adventure.
Yeah, that's what
no,
I had in
no, no.
mind.
No, it's not choose your own adventure. But some of them are they're so broad where it's like, how are you gonna cover everything and get to the next level, so to speak, and keep the plot moving? There's so much going on. Um, Another really well written one is Divine Apostasy, and
Ah,
that
hmm.
one's written from a perspective of that one's more video game like a first person, um, where
Spellcasting.
you have a display and you see things in your heads up display.
Oh, Apple Vision
Um,
Pro.
sure, but it's very interesting, to me anyway. But um, incorporating some of those kinds of mechanics into actual story, is pretty cool to me. I'll leave it with those.
That's cool. And where are you sourcing these from?
Uh, Kindle Unlimited.
Wow.
Yeah. Was it like
Kindle's got the corner on the market.
$10 a month or something, and you can read however many you want for that price. So,
I've considered getting it before. Are you able to get your like money's worth out of that?
oh yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I mean,
I
if you're
never
only reading like one book a month, it still is worth it if you're buying, like, depending on what you're wanting to read, I guess, because what they have available. Um,
yeah.
if they
I'd
don't,
assume are those pretty long?
some of them are like, some of them are kind of short, 250 to 300 pages. Some of them are like 700
Oof.
pages each. And there's
It
like
would be a
10 of them,
doorstopper of a book if you printed it out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Be
lot of
like
that. So,
George R. R. Martin-esque type. We
he
don't have
does,
to talk about him
he writes a big book.
when he writes them.
Yeah,
Anyway,
when he writes them. How long has it been? Oh my gosh. It's been what?
I read the fifth book in 2013, I think, and it was not that long after it came out.
Yeah, it's over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Come on, man. Rothfuss is
Well,
the same way though. He can't finish the series.
yeah.
Come on,
I feel
man.
like we haven't gotten anything new from William Shakespeare in ages either.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Daniel Defoe, where are you? You kidding me right now?
Come on.
Apparently the royalties off the movies for like, Three Musketeers and whatnot were good enough for Dumas. He doesn't have to write anymore.
Yeah, it's just insane. Like even
Pathetic.
like C.S. Lewis kind of fell off in the '60s.
Yeah. Hollywood ruined these people.
Yeah.
When are we going to
Well,
get the sequel to The Great Gatsby? Right? I mean,
I was really waiting for that spin-off novel about the optometrist who has the billboard all throughout the eggs. TJ Eckelberg. I wanted the spin-off novel. It'll never come. But he made that Toby Maguire money.
you could do it.
That would be so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Just write fan fiction, man. You
Yeah.
can do it.
Fan fiction. Be great. I dig that. Maddie, what have you been reading in English? You can count the Spanish
Oh,
if you want.
darn. Yeah, I did just re-listen to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in Espanol. So
Nice.
that was fun. Funny story about that, because I'm not fluent in Spanish yet, though I'm trying to get there. There, like all the forest scenes, like I kept hearing the word rana, which is frog. And I was like, I don't remember there being a lot of frogs in Narnia. Like, why are there frogs in the trees? And then because I'm listening, not reading it. And so then I went and looked it up. I'm like, oh, Rama, which is branches. So
Oh,
that was helpful to know that there's a. Now I know the difference between branches and
are there
frogs.
rainforests in Narnia now?
Yeah, I was like, wow, I missed something.
So how do
Um,
you say tree frogs?
I don't know. Rana stearbos. I don't know. There's probably a
It's
better word.
it's when you need to like do one of those videos that people are making where you go in a language and like pick like 5 or 6 words that all sound the same or either really close to
Yes.
each other and then make an
Cuento,
epic
cuento,
sentence.
cuesta, cuento, cuesta, cuento, cuento,
I
cuento.
once fell
Yeah.
out of a tree and hit every frog on the way down.
Branch by branch, frogs and more frogs.
Yeah. So what else? I've read a couple memoirs this year, which has been interesting. Like memoirs are kind of biographies. We did as a road trip family audiobook, we did Endurance, which is
Oh,
Shackleton's Incredible Voyage by Alfred Lansing. That was a lot of fun. That was a good book and a great story. Um,
man.
just finished Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, which was pretty interesting. I didn't really know exactly what to expect because I'd quite honestly not even heard of the man until a week ago. Um, but I like that. I guess a lot of the Appalachian people disagree with his take, but it's a memoir. I don't
It's
understand.
Appalachian. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I'm from New Mexico, so no idea. Appalachians. Them
Everybody debates
Appalachians.
about it. I wanted to call back to mispronunciation talk.
There we go. The Appalachians, all of the above.
Taller
It's a
dwellers.
memoir. I always think it's weird when people disagree with memoirs. I just
Yeah.
when they take like personal offense to a memoir, I'm like, that's that one person's family and their experience. So he's
Yeah.
not saying that he represents all of it. And he even says that a few times in the book. And I could see why I might think like he's painting a community a certain way, but that was what he grew up in and with. And
Yeah.
it's not the only book that I've read. In fact, I listened to Glass Castle, The Glass Castle by Jeanette
Oh,
Walls.
yeah.
And that was also like her family was from West Virginia. And
There was that movie. Actually, I think it was Jennifer Lawrence's first movie, Winter's Bone. It's also based on a novel too. I think it's
hmm,
set in West Virginia as well.
No, it's set in Arkansas.
Oh, is that right?
hmm.
It's
Okay, never mind.
Ozarks.
Interesting.
Pretty sure. I'm like 98% sure that
I
that's
saw
an
half of it
Arkansas thing.
once, and that's
I've
probably
never
why I
seen
didn't
it,
know.
but
It has
as
the
the
vibes.
Ozarks representative, I'd like to
take
defend
take
the
a
Ozarks
personal
here.
effort.
That's a different mountain range.
They all look the same to me.
Yeah. Well, I will warn that both Hillbilly Elegy and The Glass Castle has a lot of language in it and content. More content warning in the Jeanette Walls book, just because she talks about some like sexual abuse, not in great detail, but a lot of swearing in
Hmm.
Hillbilly Elegy from himself. He wrote it in 2015. Just a lot, like all the
1,000 years
words.
ago.
Yeah, at least minimum. But yeah, so as an audiobook, if you're gonna listen to it, don't blast it around your kids because they're gonna hear some stuff. Or read it out loud, I guess. Or if you're just offended by that language, don't read it.
So not a good
There's
kid's bedtime storybook, you're saying.
no,
I'll
mm-mm.
put that in the show
No.
notes.
No, and then I did Saving My Assassin, which was a recommended book. A friend of mine had read it and she
Hmm,
said she couldn't put it down, so I did that one. That's by Virginia Prodan, and she's well, it's been a minute now since I did it, but she was in, is it, I can't remember if it was Romania. I think it was Romania. During the communist reign in Romania. And so that was an interesting story. She ends up getting out, but she became a lawyer that was helping Christians like defend their freedoms
wow.
in Romania, and they ended up the U.S. government ends up well, I won't spoil it for you if you want to listen to that or read it. Um,
The U.S. government comes in and ruins everything.
yes, that's what they do. A great book. So we're very close to, Lord willing, ending our long drawn out process of adopting internationally and hopefully soon traveling and getting our son.
Nice.
So Brian Borgman, who's I believe
Oh,
a fire,
Borgman, yeah, out
yeah,
in Nevada.
yeah. So he has a book that he wrote a few years ago called After They Are Yours, The Grace and Grit of Adoption. It's a small book. It's not too lengthy. Honestly, like my husband and I both read it and we were like, this is just good parenting advice, like generally. Like not just adoption, but like just good parenting advice. A lot of practical advice, especially just from the parent's perspective and like kind of how we can maybe put our pride over our kids in the sense that like you want them to behave a certain way or appear a certain way to meet a certain image and that we can lose our patience with them and just kind of he's kind of addressing like the idols that we can have in especially our church circles where there's like a certain image that you want to maintain and those kind of become idols and so he just does a really good job of biblically kind of handling that and then also just addressing adoption and sharing his family story where their adoption was challenging for their family but I like to hear those stories because, of course, you want everything to be super easy, but you have no idea what it's gonna be like. So I'm like, huh. And then I've just done a lot of Lewis this year and other books sprinkled in, some Woodhouse. Uh,
Oh, Jeeves. Right ho, Jeeves.
yeah, he's fun. He's good for a good laugh. Yeah, I don't know. There's been some really good ones. Of David McCullough by John Adams by David McCullough. That was really good. But
McCullough. That dude was
just
great.
yeah, there's more. I'm constantly dealing with the FOMO of all the books that I want to be reading that I cannot read. I'm like, well, I need to start that, but I'm currently still have not finished the Doug Van Dorn Giants book.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Sons
like
of the
I
I'm
Gods.
audiobooked it. It's
yeah.
quick.
It's a quick read too. Like I sat down and read like 100 pages in a sitting and then I put it down and then I haven't gone back to it. Um, and then Tom Sawyer, We're Doing As a Family, which is hilarious, and I never
Say
read it
another
before. It's
comedy.
so funny. I had no idea what to. Well, I kind of knew what to expect. Like I knew what Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn look like and what they're about, but I just didn't think it would be funny. But it's hilarious. Um, and there's another book that I'm currently doing. I don't know. Who knows? But there I am. The end.
Nice. Nick, what do you have?
A few things. I have also read a few P.G. Woodhouse novels. and Code of the Worcesters and Something Fresh. Both of those wonderful. They're both I just he tells a story and the story is interesting. Story but he's a master of writing every sentence where you just want to laugh the entire time. It's uh you know, dealing with like more difficult things, it's just like the most relaxing thing, going to work and just listening to that on the way. It's like, all right,
It's
I
gonna
don't have
be
to take things
okay.
seriously. Yeah. Um I also so I've read that and very similar. Read a bunch of gothic novels. Real
Wow.
real sick twisted ones. So some of those are Melmoth the Wanderer, uh and by Charles Maturin. It was it was okay. It wasn't great. It was a little long. About a guy who's just kind of wandering around, maybe sold his soul to the devil. Might be a
Ooh.
spoiler, but another one that actually I just finished today is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which
Yes.
is a great,
Man.
very short. Like if you're doing an audiobook, I'm going to say it's 2 hours maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
So easy read, quick.
Not a sentence
And
wasted.
yeah, and
It is so tight.
especially it's a it's about sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about sin, and it's a good one. Um, I also read The Private Memoirs and Confessions of a Justified Sinner by James Hogg, which I could see somebody taking that as being an anti-Calvinist book. The character in it uses the fact that he thinks that he's justified as an excuse for sin, and really goes in on that.
Goes whole
Um,
hog on it.
yeah, he goes whole hog on it. Uh, but I don't think that I could definitely see how somebody might think that that's what it is, but I wouldn't say that that's the main thing. I think it is criticizing self justification, like self righteousness, more than it is on Calvinism itself. But it does kind of use Calvinism as like, well, I'm saved, I can do whatever I want. But we also recognize the Bible does kind of address this. So, uh,
And I've heard some people
not,
who call themselves Calvinists that say things like that. I'm like, yeah, you're not.
yeah,
The
make
label
them read
isn't
that
for
book.
that.
Force them to read this book. Oh no, wait. Um, I I also read, so as the representative of the Ozarks here, I read Shepherd of the Hills, which I enjoyed. It's a little bit sentimental and sappy. Um, it was a huge novel when it came out, and it kind of is the reason why Branson became Branson. Um,
Really?
yeah, that it people wanted to go to where Shepherd of the Hills was taking place, and
Wow.
so Branson kind of grew. I'm sure that there are other reasons, but that's part of it. Um,
Missouri.
yeah,
Put Missouri
Missouri.
on the map.
So it was good. It was worth reading, but it's not. I wouldn't say that it's great, but it was enjoyable. Um, so those are a few things. I also read The Nebulae Coat, which was John Mead Faulkner, um,
Hmm.
and it's an interesting. Uh,
Falkner.
yes,
Okay.
Falkner, and
Not like the other Faulkner.
no, no, you. And it was interesting. It's definitely it's a hard one to understand what the main idea is, but there's definitely ideas of sacrifice and things like that, and it was good. Um, but I've also been reading a lot of like theology. Got to the judicious and impartial reader,
Yeah.
and The Christian's Reasonable Service,
Nice.
Volume 1.
Brackle.
It's a four volume. So I've been doing a lot of theology, and then also Democracy in America by
Nice.
de Tocqueville, which has
And
been
by an
actually,
honest Frenchman.
yeah, it's such a dense book. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of like Chesterton. Just where every sentence in this book, it feels like, or every other sentence you could use as a quote somewhere, and it's like, oh wow, that's a really meaningful thing. And I'm not that far in, but it's it's so far seems very dense and a lot to think about. So I've been going through it pretty slowly. Um, a lot of it has changed. America's, I feel like to say that America was like refounded in the progressive era might be an accurate thing to say. And so a lot of that doesn't apply, but some of it does.
Hmm.
So it's definitely worth reading. And probably we should go back to some of those things.
Yeah.
Progressive era was net negative. I'll come out and say it.
Hottest of takes on
Yeah,
the
not
Literary
really.
Baptist tonight.
Bold.
Yeah, not a hot
Bold and
take at all.
fresh.
Uh,
Tanned
what
and
about
ready
you,
to
Lee?
read or whatever.
Lee, do you even
Uh,
read anymore?
I don't think so. But now that I'm going back, as long as we can count Audible as reading, then I've been doing a bit. Um, I was this is going back to the spring. I was on a real like true crime kick for a while. Um, so a few years ago I had read um I'll Be Gone in the Dark, the book about the hunt for the Golden State Killer. And I had picked up a copy, audiobook copy of the book Mind Hunter, which is about it's kind of a memoir. It's more of a memoir than like a true crime story, but it would be the memoir of the guy who came up with the FBI's profile of a serial killer. They made a show incredibly loosely based on it on Netflix. Um, Even though I liked the show, it was incredibly dark. The book was fantastic. And I think I would have enjoyed the book immensely more if I hadn't watched the show. Because it doesn't take place the way that things take place in the show. Um, it's different than that. It's kind of like reading a guy's diary, in a lot of ways. Uh, It was great on audio. Really enjoyed it. We'll probably listen to it again at some point. But that book, and then I listened to Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. Um, I thought that was phenomenal. I loved that. I'd never read Eric Larson before, because he's done quite a few other like nonfiction books about particular historical events. Like he did one about the sinking of the Lusitania, and there's one coming out about the Civil War. Some event that happened during the Civil War, but it's not out yet. That I'll probably read because if it was like Devil in the White City, I'll be really into it. But it sort of balances out the story of the Chicago World's Fair, alongside what like prolific serial killer H. Holmes was doing uh, in the city at the same time, sort of taking his victims from people that came to the fair, uh, and also like marrying multiple women at the same time to get money. And very, very interesting story. Really enjoyed that book. Aside from that, I did a re-listen. I hadn't read Return of the King in quite a while. So I had reread Two Towers a couple years ago and was like, this is so great. And then so I had the circus read version of the Two Tower or of well actually of the Two Towers and Return of the King. And man, Return of the King is such a good novel. I had completely lost touch with it. and it made me regret watching the movies as many times as I have. I'm still going to watch them again, but man, so fantastic. Um, that was another mower listen, and then and listening to the appendices too, like so good. Those are underrated. Um, what else did I do? I think that was the main audiobook listening. Then I actually joined in a group of relatively local friends who were going to read Cur Deus Homo together. I only got to make it to two of the online discussion sessions, but I bought the major works of Anselm, and I had never read Cur Deus Homo, and really like was embarrassed about the fact that I hadn't done it, and that is incredible.
I'm glad you were embarrassed by that. Uh,
Yeah. So I made up for my catastrophic error in not reading it before now. And it was delightful. I especially love the part where he talks about the perfect number of of God's elect, and that the number of saved people and elect angels has to balance out to the precise, exact, correct number that God intended from the beginning.
yeah, it works
those,
out
those,
perfectly.
yeah,
The
perfect.
medievals, they were so like hung up on like order, like having a very
Yeah,
clear, distinct order. Par
yeah.
for the course on that.
Those were my favorite chapters. Like, yeah, I mean, the other stuff was super helpful and stuff, and very interesting and great. But like that, like those, like speculative. I think it was like 3 or 4 chapters
Yeah,
spent on that number business. I loved it. I thought that was
I'm s
awesome.
and that's actually my biggest argument against abridged books is because if you were publishing that book, oh, let's
You'd cut
abridge
that
it
out.
easily. That would be the
Yeah,
first part because what? But
because then he
it's
moves
but
on and never talks about it again.
yeah,
It's a
but it's
complete
so
digression.
memorable and it really puts you into the mindset of the people of that time and I could easily see that being cut and it was so meaningful to me. Um Not because I believe it necessarily. I don't not believe it, I guess. But that's abridged books are evil.
They're evil. Yeah, they're desecrations of that author's work. That probably and it, usually majority of the time when you're abridging a book, the author is dead and can't fight you about it because no author would allow your book to be abridged. If you wanted it to be abridged, you would have written it that way. I think it's completely offensive. Um, so yeah, so that's great. I've been enjoying. So I'm doing a Sunday school at church about the ecumenical creeds, and then we're gonna go on to like confessions and catechisms too. But really enjoying the Creedal Imperative by Carl Truman. Very, very good. And I can see some of the, especially in the introduction, but really it's kind of sprinkled all throughout, sort of the seeds of what would become his books. Oh, I'm blanking on the title now. Brave New World. Um,
Rise and triumph of the modern self.
Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. There we go. Yeah, those two books.
The
I
Brave
can
New
kind of
World
see
is the abridged version.
like yeah. And of course I only remember it because of the novel. But anyway, I can sort of see the beginnings of those thoughts coming out, especially in the introduction of this book. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to see that sort of building up over time. And it's just a really great explanation about the benefits and goodness of creeds. So highly recommend that to anybody. And then lastly, another novel. I'm trying to continue my way through the Dune saga. So I'm in book 3, Children of Dune, about halfway through. When I can get a chance to sit down and actually read a book, that's and it's not a theology book that I'm using for research or something like that. That's the novel I'm in right now. I really want to read. and I need to get through this quickly because I'm only going to let myself read one novel at a time, and I want to finish this, but I want to start reading Cormac McCarthy's Border trilogy. So that would be All the Pretty Horses, The Crossing. Oh, there's a third book. Anyway, it's a trilogy, obviously, about the border. I've heard a ton about him. I read it was an audiobook form, but I read No Country for Old Men and loved it. And I'm like, there's got to be the next entry point to his work. And I kept seeing stuff online about reading the Border trilogy, and so I decided that I'm gonna head that direction as soon as I'm done with Children of Dune and get slightly less nerdy than I have been.
Embrace the nerd.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I've become a jock this summer, so I can't let the nerd come back in too quickly.
Hey, audiobooks count. I'm just going to go ahead and say,
I think so.
I know that
I know
you
Maddie thinks
only
so.
read on the mower, but audiobooks count. I talked with a friend at church, and he was saying that they are half credit, which I think is
How?
ridiculous.
How?
Um, and audiobooks count. Like there's all of history, you know. If you read the Odyssey or if you listen to the Odyssey in audiobook form, that's the original form.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
and
Beowulf on
Shakespeare, kind of,
audiobook.
yeah, Beowulf. I mean, all those, that's the original. Less so for some of the other things, but they count, I think. Um, if you can comprehend it, why not?
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah,
done a ton of audiobooks, but I
Well,
did
get your
listen.
act together.
I know, right? I did listen to the circus reading of The Hobbit all the way through, and that was fantastic. Like that's the way this is meant to be heard.
yeah,
Not read,
He's
it's meant
great.
to be heard. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
less so, I think, with I started the Fellowship of the Ring. Um, that's not as good as The Hobbit to hear out loud. It just my opinion.
You obviously didn't get to the Tom Bombadil section.
No, I'm past that.
Doggone
That
it.
was great, by the
That
way.
was fantastic.
That was really good.
I wish that Circus was as good at singing as Rob Inglis was. I
Mm,
loved the way he did the songs on the original because he was the voice of Tolkien for decades.
mm.
Um, he did so good on the songs. I kind of wish we could like get somebody to splice the English songs in, but have Circus doing the rest. That would be the ultimate Lord of the Rings audiobook experience.
I have another audiobook, non-Tolkien recommendation, and that is if you want to listen to a PG Woodhouse novel, Jonathan Cecil, um, which like on Hoopla, that's all of the ones that they have, it seems. I'm sure other places have them, but he is perfect for Jeeves, for all of these Woodhouse characters. Uh, it's amazing. I love reading, but I almost enjoy the Jonathan Cecil um, Woodhouse even more. Um, he adds quite a bit to it.
Ooh, maybe I'll get Joy in the Morning. I've
Yes,
been
do it.
wanting to do that one, and he does it on Hoopla.
It's worth it.
Do
Sweet.
you think that Lord Peter Wimsey could find his way into a Wodehouse novel at some point?
Easy.
I had to not read those books close together because I wrote a Woodhouse and then a Lord Peter Wimsey and then a Woodhouse, and I was like, I can't keep these people straight because it's like one's the like serious version and one's the like goober, and they're so similar.
Bunter's
Yeah, I was like,
Jeeves.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just have to break these books up by like a couple centuries, maybe for a little while, and then and in books, I mean, like not in time of reading, but like read a book from a different century for a little bit, get out of the early 1900s. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
no, I'm a huge audiobook. I'm a convert because I was of the mind that audiobooks are cheating before. It's just like you're not reading if you're not using your eyes. Your eyes are what you read with. But then as you fall in love with the storytelling, that's kind of the whole point of reading is the story. And you get just as much out of listening to it. Sometimes more, like we're saying with the performance aspect, depending on the book, you get more sometimes. I think in a way you could
Hmm.
say it maybe robs your imagination
Hmm.
a little bit, but not really though. Like I don't think it does. I feel like that just because you're still picturing it, unless you're one of those strange people that don't picture things, which I've heard about. But
I was complete when I read A Canticle for Leibowitz over audiobook. I was completely immersed. And
okay.
I did that on the mower too. I think I was so immersed, I actually mowed my grass badly while I was listening to that novel.
I
I
have
was
to,
completely captivated.
as a former audiology student, I have to ask you, do you wear headphones and then like sound protection over, or do you just blast the volume up over the mower sound?
No, I have active noise canceling headphones that I wear when I mow.
Okay, good.
I only
Because
listened,
like,
it's like a notch or two louder than normal when I'm on the mower.
yeah,
An acceptable amount.
okay. Pro tip, yeah,
I don't have any
don't.
Same.
tinnitus.
If, yeah, if anyone's trying to mow and listen to something, make sure you're not just blowing your eardrums out over the mower.
What I used to do is I'd have my like earbuds in, and then I would get
Hmm.
like range headphones, like if you go to the
Yeah,
pew pew range, and that worked pretty well too.
kind of hurts. That
But
like crushes it like in your ear.
yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah,
uncomfortable for too long.
yeah,
No, I have a pair of
yeah.
Sony noise canceling headphones, and they are the best.
I need to get some of those. I love audiobooks more and more. It took me a while. It's almost like a skill to listen to an audiobook also. I think that's another reason why somebody might say it's like half a credit is because a lot of times you do the audiobook and you're multitasking.
Hmm.
Like if you're reading, you're probably not multitasking. And if you are,
Yeah,
you're just reading words and not like retaining anything.
yeah.
So I think sometimes that can happen where you're listening and you're not really paying attention. But just like you would if you're reading and not paying attention, you just go back and go
Yeah,
to
how
what
many
you
times have you
remember.
been soaring through a novel and you're like, I don't think I remember, and you've had to like turn back a few pages to
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
only
your
skimmed
like
this.
your mind wanders, but your eyes are still following the words, and then you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, I have no idea what's going on.
Yep. Yeah, like, oh, I'm bad at
Um,
this.
yeah.
You
But
have to do
I've
it while you're doing something mind like that you can kind of
yeah,
do like driving or mowing,
Yeah.
yeah,
Vacuuming.
something like that. If you're doing a mentally engaging activity, it's not as easy to listen.
yeah. Yeah, driving like downtown Houston or something while listening to audiobook probably not gonna fly.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I have like rooms that I've painted by while listening to an audiobook. Like my back patio I painted listening to Out of the Silent Planet. So it's like that room is that book to me now. Like I've painted that room and every time I look at the walls I think of that book.
That's
The last two
So
times that I've listened to the Silmarillion all the way through has been while mowing, and there will be it's so crazy. There will be like certain plants that I mow through and I smell them and it smells like the Silmarillion.
that's
it's awesome. You don't
Yeah.
get that with just reading
Nope.
unless you're
Nope.
like reading on a beach somewhere.
The the other thing about audiobooks that's important is that you have to get a good one. I feel
Yeah.
like for a
That's
long time it was the reader was trying to put themselves in it the least amount possible, just read
Mm-hmm.
the words,
hmm
and
Mm-hmm.
it's acting. It's acting, a little bit of
hmm
acting and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't do the acting, if it's just so and so said this and so, like it's just
Yeah.
monotone reading the words, that is
Yeah.
awful. That is
hmm
not a good
Yeah.
experience at all. They need to speak and read. And actually, this is my problem with audio Bibles is that they try to
Yes.
read everything with it is all God's word, but they don't act it at all,
hmm
really. And so
It loses
it's
some of the
almost like,
vitality.
yeah, it's like every word needs to be, every word is God breathed, but every word does not need to be emphasized. And so
You want one where
it's
Jesus is like, "Woman, what do
yeah,
I have to do with this?"
yeah, it's not not every single word is like monotone pronouncement of a king. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I'll admit that it is, but it doesn't need to be read that way. Just add some emotion to it.
Yeah.
It can only work if you have like an awesome voice like James Earl Jones. Like he could read the whole Bible monotone and it would be fine for me because he has an interesting voice, uh but that's a very rare instance.
Yeah,
I
I
used to put
struggle. I
like,
found one that I liked, but it was NIV.
yeah.
And so I was kind of like, eh. It was the guy
Yeah.
who, the actor who did Poirot. I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
He was the only one I really liked as a
Oh,
reader, but it was NIV, and I was
um,
like, I can't do this.
yeah.
I got excited. They had the Kristen Getty. She did the ESV. But then I guess it's not available anymore or something unless you pay something like that
I think
happen.
there's a
I don't
certain
know.
reading plan that uses her audio because they did this thing. Actually, my Bible reading plan this year is all audio. I've only listened to the Bible for daily devotions, and ESV does a few different audio Bible reading plans, and they use those. So I think there was one with Kristen Getty. I just can't remember what one it was, but it did use her audio. But of course, it's not going
Yeah.
to be Genesis through Revelation. It's some other type of reading plan. But her
Hmm.
Psalms was really good.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I got that as like a discounted download or something at one point through Crossway.
Yeah.
So I have local
I think
files
we
of that.
listened to like First Peter or some one of the shorter New Testament books. And I liked that, but I used to put the audio Bible, like an audio Bible on like when going to bed and I just like fall
hmm
asleep. And like hopefully a lot of it will stick in my brain while I'm sleeping. It never works, but it'd be nice. Like Matrix upload the Bible straight into my brain.
I tried
Just
to
get
get
But
Neuralink.
there. You go.
yes, do that.
Yes.
It's like the
Um,
second rain outpouring of the Spirit through Neuralink.
the latter rain. Exactly right.
I will say like there's been a few audiobooks. I really like Simply Trinity, but whoever
Yeah,
read that
that
audiobook,
he was good. The only thing I did, the
I
only
didn't
thing that
like the
annoyed me was when he would properly pronounce certain French theologians' last names.
yeah, I'm like, how am I supposed to know who that is?
Puritan.
Yeah. So I don't that one would not it wasn't bugging me, but the I find that the more like the nonfiction type, if they have charts, like they needed better way to tell you, like, hey, by the way, this is a chart that I'm about to just randomly bark out words.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
yeah,
because they like follow the page and all of a sudden they're like, left,
yeah.
Jerusalem,
Footnotes and endnotes
right.
don't come
Yeah,
out very well.
you're like, what is this? But yeah, there's, I don't know. Audiobooks have made it possible for me to read way more books than I could if I was sitting down always reading them.
Yep, yep. And so, actually, kind of a side or similar to this conversation too, there has been talk about ebooks not being true reading either, even though you're using your eyeballs to read instead of your ears. But I forget, there was some study that came out that was basically trying to say that reading on a screen, even an e-ink screen, doesn't result in as much retention or deep interaction with the text than reading on paper. Uh, it sounds bogus to me. Have you guys encountered that?
Come on.
No.
I think I've seen the article, maybe the one that you're thinking of. I will say that there's maybe one aspect that might be true for at least certain people is that I tend to remember where things are on a page when I read it.
Yeah.
So if you're just kind of scrolling through and it's not like set to a page format, then maybe
Yeah.
there might be some, like, at least it would be hard for you to go back and find where you were,
You lose
if
the
nothing
spatial
else.
aspect of
Yeah.
a printed
Yeah.
page.
There's
So
something
I could
wrong
see
with
that.
people that scroll to read. That's not okay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that.
Well, they used to read
Uh-oh.
on a scroll, so maybe you're going back.
Oh no.
back.
In fact, if it wasn't for Christians, we would still be doing that.
Yeah.
Christians basically invented the book, the codex
So that's
format.
that's kind of where I get like historically, you're like, we didn't always have books. And the people that did have books were usually wealthy or like monks, priests,
Mhm.
you know. So it's like most people were illiterate for most of human history. So the I like the oral tradition thing, and then the e-readers I don't like to use. I just probably would because books get kind of cumbersome, like in your hand if they're big books, or like holding the page open like gives me like an arm cramp. So I could like see like the benefit there or the text adjustment. Like my son, he has
Yeah.
various special needs, myriads of special needs.
How
Um,
dare you?
and so like enlarging text, being able to like make the text bigger would be nice
Yes.
so he
I
could see
use
it a
that
little
feature.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
like
favorite
old,
feature of an
Obviously,
e-reader.
Gramps.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure I'm
Like,
not too far away from that, but I don't need that yet, so I'll take it.
yeah.
But I just like there's a part of me that's like I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. I feel like they're gonna change the books. So I just like having it on paper and not digital.
Amazon will do like they'll like when they do the promo covers of books that have a movie adaptation out and they put like pictures from the movie as the book cover. Uh Amazon will do that to the Kindle books. So if you have it on like cover format instead of just like a list of titles, you'll like open like it happened with my copy of Dune when the new movie came out there a couple years ago. I opened up and here's Dune with Timothy Chalamet on the tiny little cover picture on my Kindle. I'm like, I don't want this. I want that old glorious old 1960s sci-fi cover.
Yeah, it's that definitely caters to a different demographic because I will intentionally not buy a book that has the movie cover on
Yeah,
it if there's an option to not to. Like
yeah,
I don't want
yeah.
the modern
'Cause it'll
movie
seem dated.
depiction.
Kindle
Yeah.
desecrated my copies of The Lord of the Rings on there, using the promo images from The Rings of Power
Oof.
as the cover. I'm like, get out of here.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
At least
I
with Lord of the
rebuke
Rings,
this in the
you
name of
have
Jesus.
the best movies ever, and then you that's the one exception.
Yeah.
My first copy of Return of the King was Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn on a horse, about ready to draw his sword. I'm like, this is pretty dope.
I
That's
probably would have
allowed.
bought that not
That
even
is
knowing
allowed.
what Lord of the Rings was. I would have bought it because of the horse.
It was a pretty cool horse. Um, Nick, I want to do in our remaining time, I want to do our first ever product review. you have a very interesting e-reader that I want to hear all the like nitty gritty details about because
Okay.
it might unhinge me from Amazon shackles.
Yes. So I wanted to be unhinged from Amazon's shackles. I hate
Praise be.
Kindles. So they, especially with more and more of the recent updates, they've focused on covers, but they're also very focused on their own store. And I read mostly public domain books, uh, or books that I can just get pretty easily. And
that
so,
are never free on the Kindle store. Even if they
yeah.
are public domain, they're never free.
And so I was always side loading onto a Kindle, and then also the concerns that Maddie was talking about, like just them fiddling with the words and stuff. I was just thinking, man, I don't trust Amazon. So I was looking into some alternatives, and there were a few companies. There's Kobo, and there's Books, but the one that I ended up going with is it's called a Pocketbook Era, uh, and it's Linux based, unlike some of the others that are Android, or Kindle is its own, I think.
Mhm.
Um, it's a little slower, especially at startup, with getting to your book and getting ready to go. But it's got a lot of features that my old just standard run of the mill Kindle. I'm sure that the higher end Kindles had some of these features, but I loved like being able to change the, well, you can't see it, but the color temperature on my uh, e-reader and the brightness. It's big enough. I can sideload, and it's organized by author. I don't. It's not just like Kindle where it's just thrown in there. You can create collections, but then they're like synced up with my kids and stuff, and it just never makes any sense. This is simple, and it doesn't. It's not frustrating, and that simplicity is what makes me think that it's legitimate. I trust it, unlike the Kindles, and so I'm a fan. Pocketbook. I'm sure that some of those other ones, the Books one, or even the Kobo. Kobo's I think got its own store and it's affiliated more with bigger companies. But I'm a
Was
fan
that
of
Barnes and
Pocketbook.
Noble?
No,
I thought
that's
Kobo.
Nook.
That's right.
Yeah, Barnes and Noble's
Okay.
Nook, and that one I don't know. Do
I think
people
it's
even
gone
still?
now.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, but yeah, and I spent a long time trying to figure out what the best thing was, and it's hard because most of like Kindle is subsidized by the fact that you're going to spend money on their store. And so
Right.
if you're getting a non-Kindle e-reader, they're a little bit more expensive.
Especially
And you're
like with an e-ink screen, which is kind of like
yeah.
necessary. Otherwise, you're
Mhm.
Hmm.
just buying a tablet.
Yeah.
And
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
read on a tablet, like an iPad or a Surface or whatever, impossible.
Yeah. No, it's
Headache
yeah, this
City.
is e-ink. And it's not perfect. It's slow. It's got some things, but it's it's trustworthy in a way that those big company ones are not. Um, I am also concerned about them changing things or editing or just saying, we don't need to do this." And this one, I don't know that they could. There's no they. It's it, it's not. I I
Is
can
there a
turn it
them?
off. Probably not. I don't know. The Pocketbook Company is just a small European. It's not that small, but it's a pretty small European company. I think they're German.
Um, does it read PDFs?
Yeah.
Does it
Uh,
treat
but
them the same way that it would treat like an EPUB?
uh, it does
Does
the
it look?
page. So it's on mine, like they usually, if it's a normal 8.5 by 11, it ends up being pretty small. It's pretty small,
Mm,
and so I don't. I prefer not to use them.
yeah.
You can zoom in, but that's one of the other areas where it's slow. So if I zoom in and I'm starting to scroll through the PDF, it's too slow for that. I would say that if I could just upgrade the power on this thing, that would be the way I would go. Not power. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, maybe whatever, something like that. It needs to be faster.
I was about to quote
The
a
frame rate.
niche.
No, it's
It's
not
not
the
a frame
frame
rate
rate.
problem, right?
It's more like I tap on something and it just takes like 2 seconds to pull up. It's not a
Huh.
huge. It's not the like scrolling in a page is not too bad, but like opening the book or it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's power.
Um, but the battery life is great. Um, and I do full blast brightness on the back on
I
the
bet you do.
light. So yeah, I'm blind. So I got big text, everything. I'm like Gramps down here.
I
Mine
love
doesn't
big
have
text.
any like lighting.
You don't have a backlit e-reader?
No,
Wow.
Frontlit. Is it front or back? I guess this is back.
you
I
can't see
remember, so
it. It
I had
doesn't.
the
You can't see
Kindle.
it, but
Oh no, nope.
uh,
Oh, there we go.
it's like newspaper basically.
Yeah, what is that? Like 124 point font, Gramps?
Yeah,
Half the page was the chapter number.
yeah, and I don't care
Yeah,
because
you'll
So
I
just
when
can
you
push a
say
read
these
it.
button.
books are 700 pages, you
It
mean that
doesn't. I don't
they're
have
like
to
short
squint.
novellas?
I don't have to squint,
But it's
man.
3,600 page clicks.
Right.
Your words are about the same size as mine. I had no right to be doing this.
You hypocrite.
You're not gonna make me feel bad.
Whitewashed tomb.
My mine was probably the same size as yours. Uh, yeah.
Maddie's listening to a
So
different podcast.
yeah.
I'm actually looking up the ink pad light.
Yeah,
Uh,
they have other Pocketbook has a pretty good selection of deals. And
So
I got the era.
did you download all of like the Kindle books that you have purchased through Amazon and then put them on that?
So I'm still trying to figure that out. Most of what I wanted was stuff from basically Project Gutenberg. So
Yeah,
I got all those.
or monergism.
I do have, yeah. Actually, I got all of. I uploaded the whole monergism like thing, so I just have a ton of stuff on there. It's like this is too much.
You ran to your wife and like, I downloaded monergism.
It's so much.
I had to
Um,
get an external hard drive because I downloaded the entire monergism website.
well, it was like 600 books that I added.
How's
Anyway, but I think I can get the Kindle ones from and put them on without a problem, especially now. I think they're making it easier to move things around. So I haven't tried yet. I don't have very many. I've
well, several
always
years
been
ago?
more of
uh,
a public domain guy.
Yeah, good for you. Instead of
Yeah.
buying into an ecosystem,
I
heaven
don't read
forbid.
your modern novels. All right.
how long until public libraries aren't a thing anymore?
They
I
already
think
kind of aren't.
as long as bed bugs persist, I think that it'll definitely doom libraries. I am petrified to bring home a library book.
I'm not. But
All of the bed bug like pest control companies in the area, like you add, like ask anybody when they tell you like you've got to leave so we can bomb your house. They send them either to the library or to the movie theater, and that became like the last two places I will go.
Oh,
It's
but who
yeah,
goes to a library?
that's true.
we have a pretty big one in the Birmingham area. It's there's a lot of people there all the time.
They have
So
like programs and stuff, probably the way libraries used to.
And books. Yeah.
Ew, and books. And
Yeah,
More
because
people
Libraries
computers.
need to
around
go.
here have no books.
Yeah, that was gonna say more people need to go so they keep the books in the library because they're just turning into like computer hubs.
Computer labs.
Yeah.
Or they just have like shelves of James Patterson novels. Saying, all right.
yeah. Well, at some point you won't need it'll be more cost effective to not have print books, right?
Yeah.
Instead of donating books, why do I need to donate a book to the library when I can it's online for free forever?
Or
So,
they'll be full of children's books subsidized by the government about, a red crayon that wants to be a blue crayon or something.
yeah, that's only in Nick's neighborhood.
No, it's not. That is everywhere.
The benefit of having a library card is that you can get Hoopla and Libby
Ding.
and some others. Those are awesome. It varies like library to library what you get, but we get like 10 books a month on Hoopla
Hoopla
and
the
yeah.
best.
Yeah. Libby, it's like I only use it sometimes I'll get titles that I can't find on Hoopla. A lot of the more like current popular books maybe that
Yeah.
you can't find. But sometimes they have like a hold, which I had a hold on Hillbilly Elegy, and I was like, I don't
I
want to wait. I'll
bet.
just, and then I got it on a Audible because I have like 5 credits I need to use. And then I bought it, and then it was like, hey, your Hillbilly Elegy holds up, and I was like, oh, could have just got it for free. Oh well, now I
It's
own it.
interesting how those two, the Libby versus Hoopla, how they work. So
Hmm.
the one works based on they have copies that they've purchased on Libby, and you have to wait in for somebody else to be done with it so you can get it. Hoopla, you get like a certain number of downloads, and the library has to pay for those. So the
Yeah,
reason it's limited is just based on the fact that they're going to have to pay $5 for you to listen to whatever this thing is,
Oh,
and that's why a lot of
interesting.
libraries don't do Hoopla. But everybody could download the same thing. You know, if all of us were
yeah.
at the same library, we could all download Hillbilly Elegy if they had it,
Hmm.
not have to wait for each other. But
It'll
the
just cost the
library's
library
paying
more.
$5 for every download that somebody makes.
Dang.
So it's just a different model. But Hoopla
Well,
has
now I feel
way better.
bad for waiting till the end of the month if I have like a bunch of borrowing books left. I'm like, borrow, 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 and then it turns over, and
You
then we don't get to
bankrupted your
read them all.
library.
They limit it so that they know
Yeah,
how much they're gonna.
they budgeted us 10 books. We've never hit that limit, even when like my son was just doing the I Survived books, which are like an hour and a half long each. He still wasn't. We still weren't hitting our limit. But there's a lot of like Reformation heritage books on there. You can get a lot of like Joel Beakey stuff. A lot of theology stuff on there, like kind of older, not quite as like new, but
Yeah,
so worth it.
I
Totally
agree.
worth it. Well, any other thoughts? Any final statements or anything before we wrap it up?
I thought of something cool to share
Tell us.
if anyone is still listening. But I got the opportunity to go to Ireland, and
Ooh.
Dublin is supposed to be like the literature capital of the world or whatever they want to label themselves as. And so I
Sure.
wanted to go to Trinity Library.
Edinburgh weeps.
Yeah. Which was like the well, maybe not the number one goal, but at least for Dublin, is I really wanted to go to the Trinity Library because they had the Book of Kells and that like very iconic long library. But much to my chagrin, they had removed all the books out of the library except for like 2 bays.
Ugh.
And then they had a giant glowing earth globe, Gaia, in the middle. They named it Gaia. Um, and it was very frustrating. The Book of Kells experience was cool. It was neat, but you can't take pictures, which is fine, I guess. But it's like in a dark black room, and then it's just like the book in like a case. There's like a guard nearby, and it's a little anticlimactic, I guess.
Wouldn't that be cool
Um,
to put on your resume? Like, I guarded the Book of Kells.
right. Might do a better job than some recent guards. And some other. Anyways,
Hope it doesn't get Mona Lisa'd.
right, right. Hope you should make a movie of somebody stealing the Book of Kells.
Oh, dope. I'd go see that
Um,
movie.
but yeah, so that the library, I was kind of sad that it wasn't full of books and it had a glowing globe. So I decided to walk back to St. Patrick's because when I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral the day before, Marsh's library was closed, which is right behind St. Patrick's Cathedral. So I walked myself back through the streets of Dublin to go see this library because I was determined to see a library with old books. So I went back and it was worth it. It was pretty cool. It was started, I forget the guy's first name, but Marsh is his last name. And because Trinity Libraries books were only available to students, he wanted to start a public library. So it was like 1707 or 1709, somewhere in there
Wow.
that he used his own money and bought like thousands of dollars at the time, which is a ton of money then, worth of books for a public library. And then they had to change some rules because people were stealing the books. So then you had to like sit in these little like caged areas and read your book. But they had chairs for
Sounds like a
Bram
human rights
Stoker,
violation to me.
right? They had Bram Stoker there.
Oh,
He did some research for Dracula. They said that he read some books on just like Roman Catholicism and ancient Christianity for the symbolism.
oh my word.
And James Joyce. Those were like the two famous people that
Ew.
they knew.
Boo!
You
Yeah.
ruined it.
Yeah. I was
Boo!
like not very excited about that, but I will say I was like literally touch the chair that Bram Stoker once sat on. It's very exciting.
It's legit.
So it was funny because my Ireland trip was very like Dracula-esque, which you would not made no sense for it to be that, but one of our
Life is
hotel rooms,
strange.
yeah, it was we stayed in like an old castle room, and I guess they don't believe in uh window screens in Europe, apparently,
Hmm.
especially in old castles. But they had little notes on the windows that you had to keep the windows closed for bat activity late at night. So just lots of Dracula vibes, man.
Or
Didn't
Oh,
vampires
expect
crawling
it.
up the walls.
Yes, I so want to read Dracula again. I've been telling
blood is
everybody about
life.
that part.
My wife just finished it.
Does she like it?
She loved it, yeah.
I
It's
wish I
so
could
good.
read Dracula for the first time again.
It's just as good the second time.
Well, yeah, I would suppose so.
Although it was like 20 years difference for me to read it, but
So
uh,
good.
it
It's
was so
so
good.
good. Well,
But
I'm
yeah.
so did you have to put any garlic flowers around just to make sure that nothing got you guys?
Yes, we did. And
That's good.
when I started feeling a little faint and pale, my husband just decided to leave me there for a little bit to rest by myself.
She'll be fine
She just needs to rest by herself.
with an open
Okay.
window and no garlic flowers around.
And some Dutch guy comes in, Madame Maddie.
He was the biggest surprise of the novel to me because like everybody talks about like Van Helsing as like this like he's been rebranded as this like action hero, vampire killer, professional, and he's in there and he's just like this kooky little professor about it. It's like we all need to work together and love each other, and this is how we're gonna I'm gonna
Yeah,
defeat this scourge. I loved him. I loved
that's
him so
awesome. I love
much.
it when he would talk about um I'm forgetting the main girl in this story. How she had the
Mina.
brain. Yeah, Mina. She was the brain of a man.
Okay.
It's like one of my favorite lines. So funny. It's awesome.
Oh man, what a classic.
I feel like I need to read that like every fall. I'm just gonna read Dracula every year.
Also, a pro-American novel, I would say, since one of the other best
Yes.
Oh,
characters
so
is an
true.
American.
A gun-toting American.
He was so
He
cool.
was great. Uh, there's actually, I can't, did I tell you guys about this email newsletter thing where it will email you, it'll email you a chapter or portion of a chapter of Dracula based on the dates in the diary.
Yeah.
It's actually
That's
going on right
cool.
now. Dracula Daily, it's called. And so
Ooh,
it'll email you the diary entry for the particular day, as it is in the novel. So it's like happening in real time. It's a pretty cool experience. I think it might be I think it might be slightly abridged, which is the only problem.
Disgusting.
But you're getting it in an
now
email, so it's a little more forgivable, I think.
I kind of want to find it in an audiobook now because I've only read it with my eyeballs.
I
That could
actually
be a really
listened
good
to that
audiobook.
one.
Did
Did
you?
you?
Yeah,
And you didn't like it as much, so maybe you didn't get a good.
maybe. It was okay.
Well, there was no skill trees being built out.
There's always skill trees being built out. You just don't always see them.
Actually, I think Dracula, if you did it faithfully, could actually be kind of transformed into a lit RPG because like the characters are all so
Mhm.
different. It does kind of read like a like an old
They're going
school
up
like
against a
Final
raid boss.
Fantasy. Yeah, tell you, it's like ripe for that treatment. It could totally work.
Got the whole team.
Somebody needs to do it. It won't be me, but somebody should do that. I think it would be brilliant.
See, now I'm in a gothic novel mood. Guess I'll have to do
That's good.
Jekyll, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, that would be quick. You do that in an afternoon.
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
I want to read a novel that involves Spring-Heeled Jack. You guys know Spring-Heeled Jack?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
what they
that
used to call me back when
back in
back
high
in the
school.
day. Yeah, this was like 100 years ago, so more than that.
Yeah, he's like a cryptid for Victorian London. And I think the scourge of Spring-Heeled Jack would make a pretty interesting backdrop for a gothic style novel, Dracula-esque, something like that. Be interesting. Little
They have a
historical.
Richard, sorry,
Go ahead.
they have a Richard Armitage reading of Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That dude's
Oh,
good.
interesting.
He's got
I
a
was
good
hoping you
voice
were going
for
to
him.
say Richard Scary version.
Richard Scare.
Oh my word. Could you imagine the children's book version of Jekyll and Hyde? The closest thing is the Wishbone episode, which did scar me.
Or the Great Illustrated Classics. Those are so great. I usually don't like kids like abridgments. I usually hate abridgments. I'll say this. Hate kids versions. But
Title of the episode. I usually don't like kids.
but Great Illustrated Classics, the ones that have the red text on a white spine, those are
Yeah,
pretty good. I like
Oh
those.
yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's very unpopular, especially in like Charlotte Mason circles, to have abridged books for kids. But I will say with my own children who are kind of reluctant readers but really like stories, they've made them like accessible in a way that makes them want to read the bigger story.
Hmm.
So I think as long as you just don't count it as like you've read it because you've done an abridged book, it's like, I don't know, varying viewpoints. But
If you're
yeah.
going to
Nick,
read
you
those,
should
Great
show us your
Illustrated
Charlotte
Classics.
Mason tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Everything
Read
is
this
twaddle.
bicep.
No twaddle here.
No twaddle. Yes. Now I want to get a tattoo.
There you go.
That'll be a podcast
No
bonding experience.
abridged. No twaddle. Audiobooks okay.
Oh my word. Well, thanks guys. It was fun to do our every 10-year anniversary pod. So, congratulations.
We
We'll see
made
you in
it.
We did
another
it.
1,000 years.
Great success.
So until next time, may Monway keep you in the one, and peace out. At least I think that's how I used to sign this off. I can't really remember.
Close enough.